This is definitely something that I should have expected given the lobotomy epidemic over 2 years back on this gracious green earth, since Lobotomy Kaisen never really went away in the first place. I mean, we've been upholding the agenda and there's always been a presence of JJK, but it's clear to say that the spike was long gone until now. We have officially entered the golden age of JJK. Let's just cut the crap, bro. To reiterate, I originally only watched JJK because a friend of mine sucked me dry to, but now I was sucking myself dry to watch the 3rd season. Huh, caught you. You thought I was going to do one of those title cards that I did last time? Yeah, that actually got my video demonetized. If you asked me what I was doing in 2018, I probably wouldn't tell you that I was a part of the Culling Games because, honestly, I wasn't. I was too busy playing Fortnite and running around as a child in the early pubescent stages, collecting Lego Ninjago. But Kaisen was absolutely ballin'. And not in the way Gojo was. So the Culling Games, what are those? I wouldn't know, but I did also leave a 1-star review for episode 3 because they decided to explain important lore instead of flooding my dopamine receptors with 1 million impact frames. Whoa, run it back. Bro, I deadass watched that shit in the cinema and I've never heard a room erupt in so much laughter other than whenever I make a joke. Okay, run it back. I did watch the first 2 episodes in the cinema, and honestly, I felt like Prime Diddy because I think the average age in that room was like 14, which would also explain why the average JJK fan doesn't have media literacy. But the editors didn't waste their precious time, because within a week, we already had edits that would rival OG Lobotomy Kaisen in only one department, with it being that they actually slightly kinda made sense. Kinda. I mean, off the start, we have Chosu doing whatever the fuck this is, usually thinking he's Shakespeare or Macbeth or whoever washed his hand, and Yuta even raising his age of interest to 15. We get introduced to Naoya, more on that guy later, some beautifully cinematic scenes that really portray the guilt that Kaisen Yuji feels after the entirety of the Shibuya incident. Fact, Yuta doesn't have the strength to lift people, so he carries them like this to look cool without being exposed. Whoa, wait a minute, Jane! You're early? Episode 3 then explains the rules of the Culling Games, but we don't care because we can't read. What is the perfect man? Naoya is what a misogynist would say. I wouldn't know though because I'm a misandrist. 6'5", nerdy with glasses by the way. Like, look at this absolute bum. Built like a twink, not that there's anything wrong with that. 1-0 fights and uses an iPhone 6. Oh, I didn't see that. I mean, he did kind of redeem himself in the afterlife, making an absolute banger of a song. Dog, neither of them are going to heaven. Naoya is such a fraud that his biggest feat is starting a TikTok trend when he attempted to aura farm on Chosu. And surprise, surprise, he didn't win that fight either. He's such a fraud that the community took it upon themselves to replace the sounds of his rapid fast punches with just random bullshit. Okotsu walks surprisingly fast. In fact, the only praiseworthy thing about Naoya is that he looks up to the same man as me, Toji. Oh, Toji's back. I love Toji. Toji if she grew. If I was a girl, I'd let him pregnant me. I actually had the chance to meet one of the key mapper animators for this episode, and this scene is actually inspired by the first impression that he got of me. On the topic of Toji, why doesn't Toji just melt the chain and sell the metal? Well, one person commented saying it's because he's bad at making money and beats up kids for love of the game. However, personally, I think the real reason is because he doesn't want to be forced into paying child support, so he stays humble and broke. I'm also humble and broke, so if you want to make me slightly less humble and slightly less broke, consider subscribing. Another commenter said this: enough about men. Let's get some gender equality in here and talk about Maki, or rather, the Zenin Massacre. Maki and Mai fused on some calm shit, with Mai's final words to Maki being, "Destroy it all." Except Uncle Johnny, who always brought us sweets. Taking this to heart, Maki's first move was to slide right over to Uncle Johnny, who was ready to accept death, but Maki thankfully only hit him in the liver, meaning he could still live on with a transplant. After all, they do call him the kindest. Source, I made it up. After demolishing basically everyone who's ever touched the Zenin clan in their whole life, Maki goes up against Jinichi, who does fuck all except aura farm, on some locked in versus tweaking shit. But you know who wasn't locked in? Naoya, because as opposed to last season's 8 POVs of Amanai getting one-tapped, we instead got the 8 POVs of gender equality. Sorry, man. Yuta got hit by a stray piece of Naoya's skull. Oh, and of course, Momo needs her 3-second screen time. Like, I'm being deadass. Why is she even a sorceress? She hasn't done anything the whole fucking show. What are we doing? Remember how at the end of season 2, Yaga randomly had a hit put on him? What? Why is he sentenced to death? Yeah, so as much as he doesn't deserve this, he did get fucking slimed out. Sorry, Panda. And while all of this was happening, Kaisen and Megami went looking for Hakari. They went to look for Hakari. Hakari runs this underground sorcerer fight club, so Yuji infiltrates it, does some bullshit in a fight against Panda, and gets to see big man Hakari himself. Oh, me from 2023. I guess you finally know who to bet on. Whoa, wait, is he? Bro, this scene actually remains one of my favorites of the season, simply because of how many jokes came out of it. Hakari getting caught doomscrolling, this scene actually being rotoscoped over at Mappa Animator asking for a 30-minute lunch break. Like, this whole scene was actually wait, this is not the right file. Yuji then fumbles to negotiate with Hakari because this dumbass who's that, when asked about Gojo fucking Satoru. Yuji gets slammed the fuck outside for us to find out that Megami and Panda have actually just been fighting Kurara the whole time, whose power I still don't understand because I was low-key doom-scrolling whilst watching this episode. And as for the manga, I do know that there was a 6-7 joke somewhere along the way because it triggered me like a sleep ration. Even AI can cry. Seeing as Yuji knew he wouldn't be able to beat Hakari in a one-on-one fight, he decided to use his ultimate. And with that, Hakari folds and joins the team. This is why we jujitsu our guys. But hold on, we missed one crucial plot point. The return of bunny number 246, the one and only John Rabbit. The bunny is probably stronger than Megami himself. The reintroduction of John Rabbit brought a whole new wave of lobotomy, like fresh air when you open your window after a 4-hour gooning on a hot day. We had this, but soon enough, the best power scalers of the fandom finally found the top 4 JJK characters of all time. If we go back just a few episodes, we would realize that we actually missed 2 of the strongest characters of all time. Hidden in the back of the Zenin Massacre, we see the one and only John Zenin, as well as accompanied by John Jujitsu that we simply underestimated when we first watched the episode. Now, if we go back even further, amongst the strongest sorcerers of off-screen, we have John Kaisen, the stoppable, the defeatable, the wielder of the 2 eyes and limited techniques. He was the strongest sorcerer to step foot off of our screens, rivaling even Gojo Satoru. And over the course of the season, we see repeated attempts to add to this list, but ultimately they never live up to the 4 Johns. Okay, so remember how this season is called the Culling Games? Yeah, well, none of our main cast has actually entered the Culling Games yet. Until now. On a side note, look at this innocent man helping innocent people leave the Culling Game colony so that they don't die. I guess Geto Suguru really is still alive. With that, let the Culling Games be. Is this fucking Fortnite? Yuji then gets spawn camped and he proceeds to retaliate by hitting a snipe like Prime Gojo did, whilst Megami attempts to find himself a wife to settle down with, knowing he's too weak to actually beat anyone in the Culling Games. Yuji then reunites with someone that he beat the shit out of in middle school who takes him to find Higuruma. In Japan, 99.9% of criminal trials end in a guilty verdict. Yo, why is he walking like it's heavy? Because Japan is turning footsteps into electricity. In Japan, 99.9% of criminal trials end in a guilty verdict. This is something that Higuruma wasn't able to live with, manifesting a domain when he was unable to rightfully protect an innocent man from being proclaimed guilty. The episode conveys his backstory in such a cinematic and beautiful way, and yet, most fans are more concerned with Raw and Older than they are with Law and Order. And off rip before the 2 can even start fighting, Higuruma deadass just pops his domain. And shucks, Yuji's suddenly accused of sneaking into a parlor when he was underage. And he tries so hard to defend himself in this trial-like domain, but ultimately he fails and has his curse technique stripped away. Whoa, wait a minute, did Higuruma learn from the best? Yuji suddenly clocks that the weakness of Higuruma's domain is that he can ask for a retrial, and ready to defend himself again, this time he was not willing to lose.
2018年10月31日、渋谷にて大量殺人を犯した疑いがある。
Yo, what? I guess in the really short time that he spent with Hakari, Yuji learned how to gamble because he actually managed to win, taking advantage of Higuruma not wanting to kill him because Yuji was, in fact, innocent by law. Yuji, where the hell is your shirt? Yeah, tell him, Higuruma. The 2 then talk it out and Higuruma hands over his points and... Oh shit. I mean, I wish I could decline, but it would seem like we have 2 potential man-focused episodes coming up and an extra-length fraud-focused episode right after. Megami realizes that he was actually being pimped and his wife was never loyal to him, but he wasn't willing to pay off the debt that he racked up in the short 20 minutes that he spent with his new wife, and so he ended up getting jumped. And whilst all of this was happening, we got a sighting of another top 5 contender, John Bird Kaisen, but we never got to see his powers, hence we can't, in the end, rank him. Megami then proceeds to always get deflowered in some random Who is this? Yes, Takuma's ball slipping out had more frames than the entirety of One Punch Man Season 3. So many, in fact, that they had to cut corners later in the episode. Address me, bro. Look at Reggie wearing a helmet. You should always put safety first. Okay, that isn't safe. Wait a minute. What is that? Oh shit, that's a chainsaw, man. Yo, this potentially might be the craziest domain we've seen. Yo, this potentially... Okay, like, deadass, this final scene was so tough. The long-ass walk-up, the straight hands, the OST, and the way the dog takes the MVP of the fight because Megami couldn't beat Reggie by himself. And then Megami just walking away. Just think about how much electricity this man's generating. Luckily, Megami was a kind man, so he let his ex-wife live, knowing she was put into the system against her will.
What the hell could be the difference between you and me? The difference is, I'm not Ned.
Streets are saying he's John Kaisen's son. Even Choso looking at bro like, who the fuck is this guy? Dog, Megami was even ready to rip Maharaga on Angel. Oh my god, it's Jane Juliet, it's Jane Juliet, it's Jane Juliet. Also, to avoid any further copyright, I've actually just sung my own version of Jane that I'll put over any clips that I use. Hope you enjoy. Jane, you're early. Okay, genuinely, what am I watching, bro? Okay, you know that when an episode literally gets a trailer, it was bound to be insane. And clearly, some people were more hyped than others. Damn, that cockroach must have been pretty young if Yuta was willing to make out with it crazy style. Oh, and fact, his breath was so bad that it actually killed the cockroach in its entirety. Just went to get jumped by an absolute baddie. I mean, yeah, feel free to treat my surfaces as whatever you want to. I actually cringe saying that. Yo, cut that out. And after aggravating her by calling her single, they get third-partied by none other than Jane Juliet. But then thankfully, Yuta is able to use his one and only skill, walking surprisingly fast. Yuta then has to resort to bush camping and crying to Rika for help because he's not able to take on the enemies by himself. Did you know that they actually had to reanimate the domain clash because the first time Yuta just wasn't ready? On the other hand, Jane Juliet creates a boxing ring with his own cuss energy because apparently when the highest cuss energy output and highest cuss energy pool go against each other, they choose to fist fight instead. When I'm about to pop ult against Bruno 1v1 to maintain my win streak, but I can see his genuine excitement, so I just let him have it. Exact context of this. I mean, yeah, he's not wrong. This is basically the fucking context of the scene, bro. He deadass just wanted to just go all out with someone, bro. Bro, Jane Juliet, best character of all time, bro. Better than the aura monster going up the stairs, better than the guy in the chair. Jane Juliet #1, bro. You telling me this guy got reincarnated and the first thing he does is watch JoJo's? That's what I'm talking about. Netflix, release Steel War on. Netflix, release Steel War on. Netflix, where is Steel War? Netflix? You know, after all that, I might actually need to fill out the apology for fuck that. Akatsu Yuta is an evil sorcerer
who entered the Harmony Games for the purpose of spreading malice. He and his partner, Rika, roamed the Sendai colony in order to terrorize the kind participants and
someone commented this like special grade level slander. No, on a real note, I will die a Yuta hater. And no, I didn't end up shoving my phone up my ass like I said I would in the last video, because fuck Yuta. And then Miwa also just getting 3 frames for the love of the game. Okay, I know this is only part 1 of the Culling Games, but come on, we could have ended it on a bit of a cliffhanger at least. Wait, hold on. I think I missed something. That's actually about it for Lobotomy Kaisen, and it's safe to say that it just isn't the same anymore. Of course, there's still amazing memes, edits, and whatnot being produced by the fandom after every episode or whenever they think of a new idea, but you can't deny that Lobotomy Kaisen has metamorphosed in one way or another. Oh, wait a minute, I heard that Modular just finished. I might actually give it a try. Are you serious?